And so I think we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for the time and for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And of course, thank you to Jim for spending time with us as well. I think everyone really appreciates your insights and everything that you bring to the industry. So thank you again. We really do appreciate it. So kind of switching gears a little bit, or I should say continuing on, we wanted to kind of continue to play on that theme around building or elevating trust, really bringing people back into the office, and how do we do that through engaging with tenants, customers, and of course the end users of the space itself. And so we wanted to be able to field a few questions from the audience. And so with that, I will turn it over to Rachel, and we'll kick it off from there.
Travis, and thanks everyone. Thank you to CREtech first, and of course to Jim. And hopefully you were able to catch the conversation with Carl and Jim previously. And so we want to continue that discussion. If you have questions for Jim or for the join team, for Travis, myself, or Carl, please post them in the chat to your right. Jim, that conversation that you had about returning to the office was great. Are there any comments or follow-up that you want to start with?
I mean, not particularly, Rachel. I mean, I think, and it was, I think what we were trying to achieve is just to really talk about the journey we've been on, and really how we are pivoting to really trying to figure out the next chapter, the next normal, as we, kind of, I've been using. And again, I do think we're, as platforms and as an industry, we're going to be challenged to think about how we thoughtfully do our investments and where it has impact and is responsive to changing demands and changing requirements. So, it's going to be definitely a journey forward too. So for the industry.
Yeah. How do you feel that, what are the effects? Do you think this is going to be a quick fix where owners, who maybe in the past will do something to just get people back to the office and that's it? Do you think this is really going to start to catapult more people into adding technologies? And also, how important is it when you're reviewing technology that it's something that you can maybe adapt to have, use in the future past COVID?
Yeah, well, again, I think, again, one of the comments or constructs that we talked about, Carl and I talked about, is, we are a multi-tenant office owner, right, that controls common areas and common spaces. And so, again, with a lot of serving a lot of large customers, Fortune 500 companies, for example, we're very much in partnership with those customers, and they're going to be making, decisions on what they do inside their own spaces and what return to work looks like. I'm sure many of you saw the Wall Street Journal article, I think it was last week or the week before, that kind of just summarized various comments of CEOs for major companies. And, again, I think this journey is going to be very much in partnership with our customers, and will have to be in how we navigate. So, I'm an optimist. I think, again, human nature is to be in direct connection with others, and we need to solve this. Companies need to solve it, and as again, someone who provides space to major companies, we have to solve it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And working together, we know that Boston Properties works so well with their tenants and customers. Michael Beckerman has a great question for you. Are you seeing any disparity in how companies are returning to work in Boston versus New York City, or versus San Francisco, or other markets that you're in? Yep.
So we do see some variations, Michael, between markets. Clearly California is in a different phase. So it's still very much focused on essential workers. And again, the fires impacted, coming into September here, our numbers. But if you just focus on Boston and New York, actually New York's slightly ahead. It actually has gone, especially after Labor Day, has kind of peaked up. And I think I use I think when we will do a full month profile tomorrow, because today's the last day of September, and I do expect that we're up 13-14%. We'll see probably over 20% if you look at the number of people over the course of the month. I talked about that longer time frame. And then Boston slightly behind New York. So again, maybe reflecting the different dynamic of the market, just the nature of the environment here versus New York. So I mean, that's just some of the differences we're seeing.
Great. The next question is, are you seeing any changes to the normal key stakeholders or decision makers for making technology policy choices for building this new trusted office space? Is it C-suite, HR, facilities?
Well,
teams or all of the above?
Yeah. No. So I think I commented in our context, we brought together all the disciplines into a task force. And I mean, again, it talks to the depth and culture of our company, where innovation and ideas on how we solve certain things were reflected in those disciplines. I mean, I'm not an air quality specialist. I mean, and now I know more than I ever, I expected to know about it, and can talk it now. But we had a team with our engineering disciplines who really debate and really brought their years of expertise to the table, and created standards, talked about innovation going forward. So it's not just a technologist like myself. I look at our platform and I want innovation coming from anywhere. And this definitely happened as we, traversed the early months and made decisions and crafted responses to what we were doing. So, and it's been also very, very, involved from the top down. In our leadership's involvement in what we decided to do, but allowing for, again, that innovation and that decision making to occur across the fabric of our disciplines.
So on that theme, then, MERV 8, MERV 11, what makes the most?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
you
so
were right that we're all having to become a bit of even as an individual employee, right? If I think about it as an individual person, these are things that I'm now having to educate myself on, because no longer can I just say, yep, we have central air here. Okay, what does that mean? How much air actually gets displaced, on an hourly basis, or what, how fine are the particles that can be filtered? It just becomes really, really interesting.
Yeah. No, we definitely landed on a standard around 13, and there's higher standards, but HVAC systems are struggle to support higher standards above that. Just basically, some of it's based on the age, based on the type of system. So anyway, that's but all of that is part of the vocabulary today, Travis, and especially as we're doing a lot of conversations with our customers, and as starting early and then over the summer, and this has been an area of definite focus. But it's interesting, like once you have a conversation with a customer and you go through your logic and you go through your grounding and you go through how you've thought about it, there's like, okay, this makes sense. You're being responsive, and it also has a framework and a construct and a grounding in logic and science, and how you approach running an office building. So
yeah, I think a lot of it is sort of removing some of the unknowns, right? If you just have that conversation, as you said, with your customers, and realistically those customers then with the end users at that space, that level of transparency and openness, I think just helps to squash a lot of the fears that folks have in returning.
Jim, we have another question for you. I think back to the line of Boston Properties and innovation across different teams. So how have you been preparing for the new carbon regulations for radical carbon footprints, reductions, and disclosure in New York and California, and which teams are in charge of it?
Yeah. So we have a whole sustainability. I should have done a shout out when I was talking with Carl to Ben Myers, who's a real star in our organization, heads our sustainability program. We have had just a case study, I would just say, over the last 8 years in how we have approached our sustainability. It's a data play. It's a data and process play. And our ability to, publish stated guidelines, meet them 3 years early, restate them, meet those again, has been really kind of, again, I look at what Ben has been able to do, and we're a close partner, very close partner with Ben on just implementing technology and addressing, especially on the data side. So to big shout out to Ben. And so we have a sustainability task force. I mean, separate from the health, that's been up. It's standing group that's been active for several years now. And really, we as a company continue to navigate pretty aggressively, pretty publicly, just our approach to sustainability that reflects a cross-discipline approach to how we, again, culturally as an organization, address some of the new regs coming down the pike, and as well as being very proactive in how we are representing and being transparent about what we're doing. So
thank you. The next question is around trust, and at Join we really have been focusing on how to elevate trust, and so in about 10 minutes we're going to talk about specific applications and how to elevate trust to bring people back to the building. But Jim, if you could help answer the question about building trust and what that impact is in case there's another shutdown, but just also in general elevating the trust to bring people back.
Yeah, I mean, again, I look at I look at what we control, right? We control getting people through common areas, common spaces, and accessing common services, and again, being thoughtful about the measures and protocols that you can overlay in the technologies you bring in and integrate to really drive that elevated level of trust and confidence. And again, I feel like we have achieved that. Again, if there's another disruption, or however we want to think about that, we may have to recalibrate what we're doing. But I personally, I think we've done quite a bit, and we will be responsive to changing conditions if we need to. But at this point, I just think they've proven the test of time, and even as we've gone into this gradual repopulation that's occurred, we will always have our eye. Actually, we continue to do R&D. We continue to look at measure technologies. We continue to look at options. We continually reference what other companies are doing. So it's a continuous process that you're trying to make informed decisions. But at this point, we've I feel like we're in a really solid place, and we will adapt as needed. So.
Jim, we're really happy that you could join us. Thank you so much. We want to have Travis demo up next, but before we do that, I just want to see if there were any other comments or discussion items that you wanted to talk about in terms of elevating trust or bringing people back to the office.
No, I appreciate Rachel and Carl and Travis appreciate the opportunity just to have the conversation about what we've done. It's an industry challenge. We all have to figure this out. And I'll just comment. The final comment I'll make is that as an industry, we share a lot. I just even early on, the ability to collaborate with my peer group, and that's what I love about this industry, is you don't see that in other industries. The ability to really collaborate and share openly for the benefit of everyone. And this summit is on sustainability. We have the same challenge on sustainability as a global and as an industry. And I think that the culture of our industry as a whole is going to lend itself to really being innovative and problem solving, collectively, not just like figuring out our own paths as we kind of pursue. And I know that's an approach we take in how we share and collaborate with others. So it's been great. So.
Yeah, and we're so thankful that Boston Properties is sharing, and that we get to hear what is going on and the insights. So, Jim, if you want to stay on, we'd be really happy if you want to, but it's up to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much again for joining.
Great. I appreciate it.
Carl, there was one question for you before we start into the up next demo. How has the Join team evolved the product roadmap strategy in response to the pandemic?
Yeah, so looks like that was from Michael. Thanks for the question. So, obviously the vision was, how do you create the cloud connected building? And that's really where we saw that was the bigger vision of what we're doing. And of course, the elements that we install in a building when we go in also have the benefit that they active sensors. And as Jim mentioned today, and as well at the beginning of the year during another event we did together, well, not together, but we were both involved in Boston, we too believe that data is going to play a key role. And so if you look at how we've evolved, we started by delivering services to the occupiers, to the tenants. That then evolved probably a little over a year ago as we started connecting up the systems in the building and securing them, providing as many people know, there were about 360 million cyber attacks on building systems last year, and we now see more and more need for cybersecurity, but just simplifying operations, automating operations, taking error out of the operation of the building. And then the third is really what we do in terms of data, the analytics. And so that's a lot of what actually I think what Travis is going to demo is an app that we've developed, frankly, in response to customers that came to us with the same sort of challenge that Jim just raised, which was how do we elevate trust? How do you get people to come back to buildings? How do you get people to show up? And it's about providing them comfort in returning to the workplace. And of course, if you have what a systems person might call the closed loop system, we have the ability to not only just provide a passive information about a building, but we can actually provide real-time information about how many people are in the lobby, where people distributed, how do you get on an elevator if it's a tall building. And so there are a lot of things that we've added in, and we think that the fundamental fundamental value that we can provide to the owner is unifying all of those systems that come together in concert to run the building, but they then, once they're brought together, they really are there to provide that, or to elevate the trust for tenants and guests to come to a building.
Yep, great. And so I don't think I need to do an introduction because I think we've set this up for you, Travis, and I don't want to run out of time. So Travis, would you show us the Up Next demo? And then we'll have questions for you afterwards.
Definitely, happy to. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Excellent. Perfect. Okay. So thank you everyone again. I'm going to run through really quickly our new application Up Next. As we have talked about before, and actually in the Reoccupy toolkit that we launched at CREtech, there's sort of a few layers to what we do at Join. The, of course, connect aspect, so actually sort of bringing connectivity and connecting all the spaces of a building, and then securing that. You know, as Carl said, there was over 360 million cyber attacks against buildings alone. And once you then have that connect and secure, now we're in the sensing place. So this is where you're actually identifying where people and devices are in the spaces in your building. And then where Up Next really comes to play in is the automate portion. So where you're actually using all of that technology, those previous three layers of connect, secure, and sense to then build really interesting applications with the end goal around Up Next of helping to elevate trust. The idea behind Up Next is to proactively manage the flow through a lobby space and through the elevator vestibules. As we know, I think people have a concern about that being a choke point and getting stuck with a number of people, which we, I think a lot of people fear and don't necessarily want to experience. And so the idea behind Up Next is exactly that. So you're actually pre-scheduling your trip up the elevator. And so I'll go ahead and select our building here. And directly from here, this screen is where I'm essentially going to make my reservation, just as I normally would reserving, let's say, a table at a restaurant as an example, where I'm going to select my specific time. In this case, I'm actually stating where I'm going to be going. So what I'll do is I'll proactively schedule a ride. Let's say this is the night before as an example, when I want to schedule my trip. I'm going to start on the first floor, and let's say I'm going to go up to the 9th floor as an example. Now, let's just say that I'm going to arrive maybe around 9:30, and then I click reserve. So now at this point, all I've had to do was click a few different buttons, and now I have a reservation ready for me waiting. The idea is, again, utilizing the sense aspect that when you come into a real physical building, that we would understand you are there and therefore make this pass available to you. But now let's say, because this is actually, looks like I'm 20 minutes ahead of schedule, I've arrived a little bit early. Maybe there was no line at the Dunkin' or Tim Hortons, depending on where you are in North America. We'll go ahead and I'll click my see all button here, and I can see my individual pass, or the schedule that I've created. Now again, let's say that I've arrived a little bit early, and so I want to go ahead and claim my reservation right now. So now at this point, I'm actually then saying, hey, I've arrived, and now I'd like to get through. There's a lot of logic that actually happens in the background. So understanding how many elevator bays you have, which elevators go to which floors, as an example, what's the capacity and the average speed and throughput of those elevators. And so with that, we look at who else has made reservations and the timing, and we then can make a judgment call on whether you should actually wait, so continue to hold, or if you're good to go. In this case, because there was no one actually in the queue waiting, as you can see, I'm ready to go. I have a nice bright green pass that I'll simply show to the lobby attendant or security guard, and then up I go to my individual elevator. And so in this case, I'll actually go ahead and I'll cancel this one. And so now let's say you are just a visitor, right? Or you are quickly coming in and you totally forgot to make a reservation. We have the concept of a standby queue located over here to the right. So directly from this queue, I'll click Add Me. Again, let's say I'll start on the first floor, and this time I'm actually going to go to the 6th floor. And we can see there's actually 0 people in the queue, so the wait time should be 0. Now, if there was a number of people that were ahead of me and we knew that there was also a number of upcoming reservations, we could potentially put a hold on there, let's say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or potentially less. But directly from there, I'll click Add Me, and now I'm actually on the individual queue. Again, because there was actually no queue, my pass automatically turns green. I simply flash my pass to the elevator attendant or security guard, and up I go to my particular floor. Now again, as you probably saw in the previous screen, if let's say, wait, I just saw Rachel, she's going to grab a coffee, I'm going to go have a quick conversation with her, I'll go ahead and come here and actually reschedule my trip to maybe a little bit later in the day, or again, I can always rejoin the standby queue at a later time. So basically what I've done there is I've just updated my my reservation to a later time in the morning, and me and Rachel can go enjoy a coffee and have a great rest of our day. The other aspect or other side of this is the actual management queue of it, or excuse me, management side of it, that the building owner and join work together to actually set up and configure, which we won't be demoing here today, but this is the Up Next app and really designed to help elevate trust. And so with that, I'll hand it back over to Rachel.
Travis, I just have one question, and then we want to show an example in the animation. But can you talk about how Join works with owners to not only create the trust in the building and set that up, the process, but how do we share information with not only the owners, but with the tenants, and what information can we give to the owners? Yeah, no, that's a great question. And the reality is, we obviously know that adoption is key with any application. So it's important to, as we've talked about, be transparent, be open, and be very, very forward with information. And so there's a few different avenues that we take, and we really view it as sort of marketing, if you will, or co-branding and co-marketing, where we're reaching out, proactively reaching out to tenants, engaging them, showing them exactly what's coming, why it matters, why we're doing this, and doing things like little mailers, so emails, small brochures. We've actually even started to do microsites, and we can tailor those specific to the needs of each building. And then, of course, working with other tenant engagement apps that you might be utilizing as well, and sort of doing direct links between those two applications. And then in the actual lobby spaces, doing things like QR codes that will link directly to the app, so that it's that frictionless experience for guests and people coming into the space as well. So like I said, it's not all on you. It is definitely a joint effort, because we know that adoption is key, especially early on, to see the success of the app.
And I think what I will do, if you're okay with it, I will actually share the video, the animation. And give me 1 second while I pull that up. Okay. Oops, sorry about that, folks. And while I'm pulling that up, Carl, could you talk about what we're seeing in terms of other use cases around sort of that elevating trust while I pull up this this video?
Sure. So I think in terms of elevating trust, or actually if you think about what going back to Michael Beckerman's question about how we've augmented what we offer, there's obviously a lot of data that we collect on behalf of the owners that we can then use both to help the tenants as well as the owners, and so there are frankly a lot of operational simplifications that we can provide to both the tenants and the owners in terms of we know who's coming into the building. We can provide better information directly to as a matter of fact, we're working on a project right now with a couple of partners, a fairly significant project in Massachusetts, where state law is actually, or the law of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is mandating contact tracing, among other things. And so the approach that we've taken is what they're trying to do is understand that as if people do get sick, they've got a way to go back and figure out how trace actually what might have happened. And so there are a number of derivative use cases that we've been working on that our customers are coming to us with, because that does seem to be, again, the data element that Jim mentioned and we referred to briefly is really essential, because if you have a good understanding of what's going on in the building, you can then adjust and new reasons why occupants can trust the building they're in. So back to you, Travis.
Thanks, Carl.
I'm actually going to show the animation. And so again, what Travis mentioned is that Join works with owners to include this Up Next animation and other collateral in their return to work campaigns for tenants. So we provide the microsite and it's specific to each building. And then we have collateral and elements that help make what all of the effort that the owner is putting into the technology and building is very clear for the tenants. So there you go.
You are taking care in multiple ways to protect your community and yourself from COVID-19. And because we're all in this together, thank you. You expect to be able to continue to do this when you return to your workplace. The office elevators have stickers to limit crowding. You understand that distancing reduces overall capacity of your building's elevators, but you are not alone if you're wondering, how will I avoid overcrowding in the elevator lobbies? Or will I have to wait in a really long line? What if your office building was working with you on this? Up Next by Join on your smartphone is your partner to help you and everyone in your office maintain safe distancing when waiting for elevator rides, both up and down. You can make a reservation, and Up Next will tell you when it's time to head toward the lobby and when it's your turn to ride. You can also ride standby, and Up Next provides brightly colored passes so you can easily coordinate with your coworkers on whose turn it is.
Well, it sounds like we had a little bit of some audio issues there at the end, but we'll make sure that this is actually shared out as well. And as part of our, as Rachel was mentioning, of what we can show to tenants, but also we'll have it up on our YouTube pages and on our website here in the not too distant future. And I think one of the things that I wanted to pick up on and sort of elaborate on as well, and I think this is more so because we get this as a common question both from owners and operators, is really around, well, what's the level of integration, right? UpNext seems amazing, but our elevator system is pre-World War II or has a whole bunch of known issues from an integration standpoint, et cetera. The idea behind UpNext is it sort of overlays over that. The idea is that we're actually managing the flow of people in and out of the actual lobby versus actually managing the actual elevator. So we're not calling the elevators, we're not detecting exactly where they are. What we're doing is, again, managing that flow into the building. So we know based on the capacity, the number of elevators, and well, obviously you can mark when elevators are out of service and what have you, but understanding that and processing that through our algorithm to better understand what flow is actually reasonable and can be allowed in the space, and less of actually calling the individual elevators, because as you can assume, there's a lot of complexities there, and not every elevator system is can be integrated or connected as well.
Travis, I think we're getting to the end of the session, if not already going over. Are there any closing remarks that you want to share with people, or just some final comments, how they can get the demo, how they can schedule time with you to see this and have their questions answered about their specific buildings?
Yep, definitely. So you can go to joindigital.com, but also please stop by our booth and we will be able to share all of this wonderful information with you as well. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get fully into it, but there's some future apps as well that we'd love to share with you that we're creating as well, really with the whole goal of elevating trust. And I think the theme that you'll find is not only elevating trust today, but also really deploying technology that is lasting. The last thing you want to do is deploy 8,000 sensors, and then in 2 years' time, you look past and say, okay, we're not in a situation where we need all these, it doesn't make sense, versus deploying something thoughtfully that today is maybe providing sensors, but is tomorrow providing a better technology experience for the tenants in that space. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you at our booth. And again, please feel free to also reach out to us at joindigital.com. And thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the show. And thank you, Carl.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, Travis.
Oh, thank you, CREtech,
And
so
CREtech,
much for having us and for bringing everyone together. Visit us at our booth in the expo session of Join.